It has come to my attention that certain individuals on the internet feel inclined to stir up political commentary on behalf of this poster in the recent trailer for Cyberpunk 2077. It's a transgender woman with a gigantic schlong proudly standing at attention. I understand everyone has their opinions on homosexuality and the transgender movement, but like politics, religion, and social beliefs, let's keep them the fuck out of gaming. It's one thing to say you'd prefer a main character to speak rather than not to speak, as you might find the game more exciting. But it's another to force social agendas on a company's inclusion of controversial material just because you don't share the same belief. The recent Cyberpunk backlash is one in a long list of social issues plaguing the gaming industry, where developers now have to tippy-toe around what's quote-unquote socially acceptable for fear of random people on the internet getting upset and lashing out. Without question, this is why so many games fail to capitalize on good ideas, because they're constantly in a state of anxiety on whether the public will accept games that try to include hard topics. Take for instance BioShock Infinite, which set up a dystopian society in the clouds that tried to tackle some hard-nosed ideas, like prejudice, religious oppression, class oppression, manifest destiny, racism, slavery, etc. It certainly tries to portray these ideas, but I got the distinct feeling that they could have taken them much further. Sadly, they were too worried about being berated from strangers on the internet that the game barely touches on these issues outside of a few small scenes. There's no lynching, no N-word, no beatings of blacks in dark alleys, things that would be appropriate for the subject material of the game. Everything is being held back. BioShock wanted to be extremist and interesting, but it was too scared to, thus the deeper tones of the game ended up being pretty half-baked. So we ended up with a BioShock game that came across as totally amazing, yet when you dug below the surface, it was pretty hollow. As the sensitivity gets disseminated through the internet for attention and sometimes profit, developers continually read it and in turn stay pressured not to piss anyone off. Just look at Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, the game that tackled slavery for God's sake when it was released in 1997, albeit in a shall we say less provocative way, but the point remains. Controversial material has always been in video games, just now we have a platform that allows people to speak up about it if they don't like it. The internet is now a safe haven for this kind of social rebellion, even if the issues portrayed in those games may make the game more flavorful. Everyone is a faceless name, sheltered by invisibility and autonomy, free to do anything and everything without an iota of recourse. Let Cyberpunk be the game it wants to be. Injecting social nonsense into the conversation undermines their ability to be expressive and create a mature game. This isn't Foo Dragon or Barbie. This is a game for adults and should have the power to bring about controversial material if it wants to. If we continue to act like every game needs to be socially acceptable, we'll never learn anything about things we often know nothing about. Not to mention, it will shackle developers to the totem pole of trying to appease everyone without offending anyone. Outside of just being impossible, that's also going to lead to a land where every game is liked by everyone and maybe perhaps not loved by anyone. Game developers should be empowered to be bold and explore new ideas regardless of sensitivity, especially ones that actually have the power to do that. Cyberpunk is being developed by CDPR, which have a cult following, which means their game will sell like hotcakes. Imagine all the other games that have to fight for every sale. So if Cyberpunk isn't allowed to do what it wants to, how do you expect any other title to? That doesn't mean we can't be critical of the implementation should it go sour or distasteful. If these extremes are just used as social propaganda, then to be damned with it. That doesn't mean sensitive material otherwise can't be used to expose, enlighten, or teach people about various extremes of society. At least give the company the chance to do it without filling the air with political drivel before they can even release the game. You want your main character to be a woman or black? Go ahead, I'm all for it. You want to explore drugs, prostitution, mental health issues, or maybe xenophobia? Go ahead. Slap a mature rating on the back of the box, that's what it's there for. You want to put a transvestite in the game? Do it. If you're willing to be that radical, it must mean you're onto something interesting. You're a human being, you have the right to believe whatever the hell you want to, so go ahead and do it. Nobody cares and you never find me trying to force my beliefs down your throat. If you were the only one to buy Cyberpunk 2077, you may be entitled to have some say in the game, obviously. But there will be millions of people, like or unlike you, who have different beliefs and values. So you're not allowed to simply point at a video game and demand that it cater to your own ethos, and tear down everything you think is off-putting, distasteful, or objectionable. I will leave you with the justification by CDPR, which I think is very appropriate and sheds light on why they're actually putting a giant penis on a transvestite. Cyberpunk 2077 is a dystopian future where mega corporations dictate everything. They try to, and successfully, influence people's lives. They shove products down their throats. They create those very aggressive advertisements that use and abuse a lot of people's needs and instincts. So hypersexualization is apparent everywhere, and in our ads there are many examples of hypersexualized women, hypersexualized men, and hypersexualized people in between. This is all to show that much like our modern world, hypersexualization in advertisements is just terrible. It was a conscious choice on our end to show that in this world, a world where you can be a cyberpunk, a person fighting against corporations, that advertisements like this is what you're fighting against. So as you can see, a giant dong sitting in the middle of Cyberpunk 2077 is not there just because they want to be edgy or extreme. It's important to the game because it has meaning behind it. Let's stop this political madness. It's fiction. I don't think it would be good for the industry to devolve into where developers are nervous, scared, or timid about bringing really interesting concepts, whether they're extreme or not, into the forefront. Games should be made by the developers. If the consumer doesn't like it, then well, just don't buy the game. Thanks for watching today's video, guys. That's pretty much all I got. I hope you're having a fantastic start to your weekend, and I hope to see you guys in our next video. Peace, love, and happiness. Until then, I'm going to be doing Q&As at the end of my videos for funsies and to interact with the community a little bit. So if you have a question, some burning desire building up inside of you that I absolutely must answer, then drop it down below or hit me up on Twitter. I'm going to select random comments, feature them in my videos. I think it'd be pretty cool. I'm already starting to enjoy it. I did some for the last 2 videos or so keep them coming, and I'm gonna probably limit them to maybe 3 or 4 per video because I don't want to stretch out the video too much. You guys came here to see a particular topic, and I don't want the video to be super inflated. Sounds good? All right, guys. See you next time. Take care.